Hi angels, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to have another case, and this one, when I tell you, it is crazy. It's such a roller coaster. I am going to say a little trigger warning. There are themes of rape and child violence in throughout this, so if you don't want to see that, obviously don't watch, because obviously not everyone can watch things like this. It is quite heavy. If you don't want to watch this, it's absolutely fine. I'll be back soon. I'll make me next case. Hopefully doesn't have them sort of themes in, hopefully. But if it does, I'll be back the week after, so don't worry guys. But just don't watch something if it's going to upset you. So this case is the kidnapping of Jaycee Lee Dugard. Now before I get started, I'm just going to say, I'm going to link people's videos that I've used below. I am dyslexic, so I don't read the books and stuff, so I like to just watch documentaries. I watch other people's version of these videos, but I always link them down below because I'm never going to take credit. For this I used Kendal video. So yeah, I hope you all enjoy the video. Make sure to like and subscribe if you're not already, and let's get into it. If you see me keep looking down, it's because I'm reading my notes. That's why. I know I'm not professional, I'm so sorry. So a little disclaimer, everything that I talk about in this video is literally just things I found on the internet and I've made it into one video, so please don't be offended by anything I've put on. This hasn't been put out to offend the families or the victim or anybody involved. So yeah, let's get on with it. So this is the case of the kidnapping of Jaycee Lee Dugard. So at the time of her kidnapping, she was 11 years old, and this happened on June 10th, 1991. She lived in South Lake Tahoe, California. I don't know how you pronounce that, but you just get me gist. And they'd actually moved here only 1 month before Jaycee was taken, because they thought it was safer than where they'd previously lived, which was Orange County, California. Her mum was called Terry, her stepfather was called Carl, and her little sister called Shauna. So this all happened on June the 10th, 1991. So Jaycee woke up like any morning. It was a school morning. She got up, got ready. Jaycee said she remembers it being nice sunny weather. It was just like any other day. And as she was halfway to the bus stop, like from her house to the bus stop, she said somebody pulled over next to her, and she just assumed that it was somebody asking for directions or something, or maybe, you know, someone had lost a dog, or, you know, there could be multiple reasons someone pulls up next to you. Now, before Jaycee could say anything or even look at the drivers, she said she just remembers falling on the ground and then she was unconscious. It turned out that she was actually tasered. The driver of the car then got out and picked up Jaycee and put her in his car. Jaycee's stepfather, Carl, actually saw all of this happen, and he jumped on a bike that was next to him, and as quick as he could, he raced up the driveway towards the bus stop to, you know, try and stop them. But obviously a car is a lot faster than a bike, so he didn't even get to say a number plate and Jaycee was just gone. So the person who tasered Jaycee was called Philip Garrido, and he was with his wife Nancy Garrido. Nancy actually helped find and kidnap Jaycee as a gift to her husband, so she was heavily involved as well, like heavily involved. It wasn't all Philip, it was Nancy as well. Jaycee said she woke up in the car, and obviously she kind of understood what was going on because she was 11 years old, and she said she just pleaded to them and said, you know, my mum and dad have no money, they won't be able to pay any money, because I think she thought that she was getting kidnapped, you know, for money. But she basically said, like, my parents can't pay a ransom, so please drop us home. But the Garridos didn't listen, obviously. The Garridos then drove her for 3 hours back to their home. I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this right, but they lived in Contra Costa County. I hope that's right. But it was 3 hours away. So she was sat in that car for 3 hours, like, not knowing what was going to happen. Obviously scared for her life. It's so sad. I couldn't imagine. She was only 11 years old as well. I don't know what I would do now when I'm 17. Never mind, I was 11. Now, obviously, this bit's a bit upsetting, but on the first day, as soon as I got home, they handcuffed her and Philip took her into the shower and raped her. Now, that happened literally on the first day, so I think that just shows the chain of events that were to occur, and this just happened all the time. Like, he would just rape her all the time. The fact that he did it already on the first day, I think it just showed what his intentions were. I think Jaycee then knew that he didn't want her for money. He wanted that for her, which again, absolutely terrifying. He would tell Jaycee that he had a sex addiction, and by raping Jaycee was saving loads of other young girls, which is just crazy. Like, you would never think of it like that, would you? Sorry, that's me dog in the background of it. He would also tell Jaycee that there was voices telling him that he had to rape her. So on the first day, Jaycee was took into the back garden with a blanket over her head, and she was put into a shed, and this would become Jaycee's new home. I'm going to put up a photo of the back garden because it's quite hard to explain. So basically it was like loads of like tents and sheds, and it was just a lot of like mess basically. And Jaycee was in one of these sheds. Jaycee had a bucket for a toilet, she had no companionship, and she barely ever spoke to anyone. The only people she spoke to was her captors. So, you know, she didn't have anybody. The shed was absolutely tiny. It was soundproof, so Jaycee couldn't even scream for help. Philip told her that there were attack dogs in the back garden, and if Jaycee ever tried to escape, that the attack dogs would get her and they would kill her. So obviously Jaycee was scared for her life, and she didn't want to move because she was too scared to try and escape. So Philip actually started to bribe Jaycee with like McDonald's, milkshakes, and, you know, like sweets and chocolates. And kidnappers do this a lot because they want the person they've kidnapped to trust them and, you know, not leave them. Jaycee was actually given a TV, but she wasn't allowed to watch any news coverage of what was going on with her disappearance. This case got so big so quick because of how bizarre it was. You know, she was literally just, our stepdad was literally watching her get kidnapped and couldn't do anything about it. It was a very bizarre case of how it all happened, and it was just so scary thinking that your child can literally just go to the bus stop and just get kidnapped and they're gone. Anyway, so it was literally everywhere, this case, and everybody knew Jaycee's face. Like, it was plastered everywhere. Everybody was looking for the grey car that a car had described singing. Police went around neighbours to see if neighbours had seen anything, or, you know, if they got a number plate of the car or anything like that, but nothing came of it. Jaycee's mum, Terry, was like amazing. She did so much, like literally she did so much for her daughter. She was literally doing anything she could to find Jaycee. She was doing loads of appeals. She actually had some friends quit their jobs so that they'd be full-time looking for Jaycee, and she never ever stopped on the look for Jaycee ever. Jaycee's mum also funded a group called Jaycee's Hope, which was all around finding Jaycee and volunteer work. Posters and flyers were distributed all over the country. There was actually a song made called Jaycee Lee Dugard, and it was distributed at every radio station that could possibly distribute it to, just to raise more awareness for the case and for her name to get out there. So 1 month into Jaycee's abduction, she was actually moved into a bigger shed in the back garden. Jaycee said that she used to always look up at the moon because it would give her comfort, because she said that her and her mum would argue about whether the full moon or the crescent moon was better. And she said whenever she looked up at the moon, it just reminded her of her mum. And the strange thing about this is Jaycee's mum, Terry, actually did the same thing. She used to look at the moon and think of Jaycee. They both got comfort from something like that, knowing they were both looking at the same moon. So Jaycee's captor, Philip, he would listen to voices in the walls, and he believed in like loads of strange things. It was clear that obviously something was wrong with him. He had like some mental disorder. He would often get extremely high. He would do loads of drugs. Speed was his drug of choice. And he would binge, like getting so high, and then he would make Jaycee dress up and act out certain scenarios, and then he would rape her. And then he would cry his eyes out afterwards, saying how sorry he was and how he was such a bad person. He would say that the demon angels and God was making him do it. Nancy, which was Philip's wife, also used to apologise to Jaycee all the time, even though she helped so significantly in kidnapping Jaycee. There is actually footage online. I'm not going to play it because I think it's so disturbing, but basically Nancy and Philip are in a park. So Nancy's pretending to video Philip playing the guitar, but in real life what she's doing is she's zooming in on children in the background in the park, which is just so disturbing. Like, oh my god. They used to do this a lot. They'd go to the park and it was like they were picking out possible people to kidnap. Jaycee said that after a while, she became stronger. She still cried every day, but she was stronger and she wasn't crying as much as she usually did. And something really interesting about this case is her captors actually gave her a journal, and she literally has a journal documenting every experience and thought that went through her head when she was in there. So her captors also started giving her kittens. This just kind of gave Jaycee something to do because she was by herself constantly and she had no one. Do you know what I mean? So obviously she was really bored and she was so lonely. So they started getting her like kittens and things. But Jaycee said like after a certain amount of time, like after a certain amount of months, the kittens would just disappear. And she said that she thinks that Philip killed them after a certain amount of time. Our captors would actually tell Jaycee that these cats were worth hundreds of pounds. So Jaycee would be grateful and thankful to them for buying it, which again, he was trying to bribe her and he was trying to make her trust him, which I mean obviously didn't work, but in his head he thought it could have. On April the 3rd, 1994, and at this point Jaycee had been kidnapped for like 3 years. They were all sat down eating dinner, so Jaycee, Nancy and Philip, as they always did, they sat down and had dinner. They told Jaycee that she was pregnant, and at this point Jaycee was actually 4 months pregnant, but Jaycee was so young that she didn't even understand the connection between sex and babies. She was only 11, she had no sex education. Obviously Philip wouldn't take her to the doctors and obviously couldn't take her to the hospital or anything because then they would know that, you know, it was Jaycee. So he told Jaycee that he was going to deliver the baby himself and he was just going to watch some video of how to like deliver a baby. And the only sort of knowledge Jaycee had of pregnancy and giving birth was Philip would let her watch them sort of programmes on her TV. So do you know, like the pregnancy programmes, he'd let her watch them, and that's like literally all she knew about it, which is crazy. So on the 18th of August 1994, Jaycee had been in the shed all day by herself and no one had checked in on her on that day, which is quite stupid really considering they knew she was like 9 months pregnant. But you know, anyway, so they hadn't checked on her all day and she started getting really bad contractions and she said it was the worst pain she'd ever been in her life, because I mean she was only like what, 13, 14. Finally, I'm not sure if it was Nancy or Philip, it doesn't say, but she was one of them found her having contractions and then Philip helped her deliver the baby. There was actually a complication when Jaycee was giving birth where the umbilical cord had wrapped around the baby's neck, but because Philip would watch videos and stuff, he knew like he had to like get the umbilical cord out before she pushed, so he did, luckily. Jaycee said she was just so happy because even though it was her captor's baby, and obviously that's horrible, she said she had someone that was related to her and it was hers and it was somebody for her to be with and something for her to do, someone for her to look after. Even though obviously the circumstances around having this baby was like so traumatic for Jaycee, she actually says that it was probably one of the best things that could have happened for her mental health. A few years later she actually had another child, and she said she had like a little classroom set up in the back garden in the shed where she would like teach them, because obviously they weren't going to be able to go to school, so she would sit and she would teach them as much as her knowledge though, because obviously she was only in education until she was 11. So at this point Philip and Nancy actually made Jaycee choose another name just because it was quite risky calling her Jaycee in case anybody overheard or anything, so she chose the name Alyssa. Nancy actually became very jealous of Jaycee and Philip's relationship. I don't even want to call it a relationship, but you know what I mean. She became very jealous of that because she felt like Jaycee was getting all the attention, which is just crazy because it wasn't like Jaycee wanted to be there. So Nancy and Philip actually told Jaycee that their children had to grow up thinking Nancy was their mum and that Jaycee was just their sister. And obviously this devastated Jaycee because they were her kids. She didn't want them thinking somebody else was the mum, they were her babies. So something that people find quite interesting about this case as well is Jaycee actually had multiple opportunities where she could have got help. So the first was where there was a boy neighbour who lived like across the fence, and he said to Jaycee like, who are you, where are you from? And Jaycee just said, oh, my name's Alyssa, I live here. So the boy didn't really think anything of it because he just assumed that she'd lived there because why would he think anything different? In the early 2000s, Philip decided to open a printing business and he would get Jaycee to do some of the work. This actually helped Jaycee a lot because it gave her something to focus on, again, like something to put all her attention into. At one point, Jaycee even spoke to a customer on the phone and didn't say anything, didn't ask for help. She had access to an email as well, but again, didn't try and access help. So she was very, very mentally controlled by Philip, as you can tell, but she never had Stockholm Syndrome, and she gets so offended when people say that because she didn't. She wasn't in love with Philip, she hated him, but she was so scared and she was so manipulated that she didn't think she could leave him, that she could get away. You know, like, she wasn't in love with Philip, she wasn't happy, she was so sad, but she just didn't know what to do. She was only 11, she was petrified, she just thought that Philip was going to kill her if she tried to leave. In 2009, investigators believe that Jaycee was moved again. So, like, she was in his back garden, but there was like a back bit of his back garden and she was moved further back because now Philip had 3 kids that he had captive, so it was very risky. So that's why he moved them even further back, so less likely to be seen. Now, this is going to annoy you guys so much, and I know it will, because there was a similar thing in the Millie Dowler case, but this is going to annoy you guys so much. I know it will. So basically, Philip was actually on probation at this time. He was on probation for an attempted kidnap. So he actually even went back to prison at one point while he had Jaycee captive. But he would have a parole officer that came over. I'm not sure how often they come over, but they came over like, I don't know if it's every week or every month or... Anyway, he had a parole officer that would come over, and 2 policemen went into Nancy and Philip's home. They went in the house and looked around outside, but they didn't check the backyard, which is so devastating because if they had checked the backyard, they would have found the kids. And actually, one time, the police were in the house and so was Jaycee. At this point though, Jaycee didn't have to be handcuffed or kept in the garden anymore because Philip and Nancy knew that she wasn't going to try to escape because she had so many opportunities that if she was going to, she would have done it. Jaycee actually even had a conversation with one of the police officers and they didn't think anything of it. Because, like I said, she wasn't handcuffed for anything, she wasn't trying to get away. So they had no reason to believe anything was wrong. Multiple neighbours saw and even spoke to Jaycee, but they didn't know who she was. No one thought anything alarming again because she wasn't trying to escape and, you know, she didn't look scared. She just looked like she lived there. Nobody really thought anything of it. She even had answered the door to neighbours and she would tell them that her name was Alyssa, which was the name that she picked, like I mentioned earlier. And again, the reason she didn't call out for help, Jaycee says it's because she was just so scared. She didn't know what to do. She thought if she did try to escape, she was going to get killed. She was just doing what she could to survive. She was doing what she had to. Another thing, which I know will annoy you guys again, is law enforcement actually had records that Philip Grito had kidnapped someone in 1979 and police never looked into Philip and never made a connection. And I understand that he lives 3 hours away, but at the same time, it's like, how were police probation officers going into his house, seeing a young girl and not thinking that something was wrong? Like, with the fact that he'd had kidnapping charges. In April of 1992, Jaycee was seen at a gas station by a man, and he said he saw her looking at a missing person sign, and it was a big poster of her, and he said she was just staring at it like in complete kind of shock or in awe. You know, she was just staring. So he did call police and report this. Then in 2006, a woman called police and reported that there was strange tents in the backyard of the Gritos, and she said that there seemed that there was children living there. And police never did anything about it, ever. They had so many opportunities missed, they didn't do anything about it. Philip was a sex offender and he was actually on parole for kidnapping someone, yet police didn't think. It just shocks us. Police didn't think that they were linked. You know, when someone's ringing saying that there's strange tents and there's children living there of a sex offender's house who's kidnapped people before, how was that not connected? I'll never know. August 24th, 2009, Jaycee and her 2 daughters and Nancy went to UC Berkeley campus. I don't know if I said that wrong. I don't know if it's Berkeley or... I don't know, I think it's Berkeley. But anyways, Philip went there so he could shout and scream about his religion, and he did that a lot. He really believed that he was the chosen one. He basically was like harassing people and just acting very abnormally. Philip told everyone that he could hear things and that he was the chosen one by God, and you know, he was very mentally wrong. I don't know how you word that. 2 local female police officers actually seen Philip, Nancy and 3 young girls, and they said that they don't know why, but they had a feeling in their stomach that something was wrong. Even though Jaycee and the 2 girls weren't acting abnormally, they just said that they felt something in the gut that was wrong. The police officers actually spoke to Philip and convinced Philip that they were interested in his religion to kind of keep him talking. They asked him for his name and searched up his name and found that he was a sex offender. So obviously alarm bells started ringing straight away because they were thinking a sex offender should be with 3 children. So all 5 of them were taken to the police station. So at first Jaycee wasn't cooperating and she just kept repeating, "My name is Alyssa, I'm Alyssa," and she just said, "I live with them." Police looking at Philip's record did come to the conclusion that most likely Jaycee had been kidnapped alongside these other 2 girls, and they thought the 3 girls had been kidnapped, which was Jaycee and her 2 daughters. Eventually Jaycee said, "If you give us a piece of paper I'll write down my name, but I'm not going to say it out loud because I'm too scared." So obviously she got that piece of paper and obviously she wrote down Jaycee Lee Dugard, and the police said it was just crazy. Like, they all just lost it. Like, they were all like, "Oh my god, it's Jaycee Lee Dugard, we've found Jaycee Lee Dugard." At this point she'd been missing for over 18 years and she now had a daughter, 2 daughters, one 11 and one 15. Police straight away said to her, "Do you want to speak to your mum? Do you want to call your mum?" Jaycee's mum said she was at work when she got the call. She said at first she was just shocked, and then she went in denial and she was thinking this is a horrible joke, like it's not Jaycee. And then she said when she finally realised it was Jaycee, it was just like the happiest day of her life. So her mum headed straight from work obviously, and Philip and Nancy was straight away arrested. It's so amazing that Jaycee survived this. She now has 2 daughters who she's raising. She's in therapy. She's wrote a book, I'll link it down below actually. She's working with the foundation that her mum set up for her. She's now been out of captivity for like over 11 years now. She was actually awarded $20 million due to police incompetence with the parole officer, which is nothing really in the grand scheme. $20 million for what she went through, it's nothing. Now I just want to say before I finish this video, if you learn anything from this case, you need to learn that if you ever think something's wrong, ever, tell someone, because 99% of the time you're going to be wrong, and that's fine. Like, there's no problem with being wrong, but that 1% that you're right, you could actually save someone's life. So whenever you have that feeling in your tummy, tell someone, speak out, because if those 2 police officers hadn't have spoke out about Jaycee and said, you know, "I feel like something's wrong," then Jaycee would still be in captivity now. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed that video. Very heartbreaking, but I think the ending was just so amazing that she got found, because like I'm sure it's like 99% of the time, in case where kids go missing, over 99% of the time, by 18 years it's like virtually impossible that they're going to find them. You know, they're most likely dead, but Jaycee was alive, and the fact that like she's gonna, obviously she's never gonna live a normal life, but she's gonna be able to live a life, and it's just mental that she's alive and safe and well. Also, one thing before I finish that I just wanted to say, I put a poll on my Instagram saying the Chris Watts case or the Jaycee Lee Dugard case, and majority of people picked the Chris Watts case, but literally the day after I posted that poll on my Instagram, a documentary went on Netflix all about the Chris Watts case, and everybody's watched it. So I was just thinking, no one's gonna watch it, my video, if they've watched that sort of thing. Like, you're not gonna want to watch the same case twice. And literally everyone's watched it. So yeah, I decided to do this one instead. If you have any suggestions, I'm going to be putting something on my Instagram, so stay tuned for that. I'm sorry again this video was late, but I'm telling you guys, A-levels are so difficult. I am actually quarantined for 2 weeks because I've been in contact with someone who has coronavirus positive, but I can't get a test because I have no symptoms, and they're like running out of tests and they're asking them to keep them for key workers and stuff, so I'm not getting on, so I'm just going to isolate for 2 weeks. So hopefully a lot of content's going to come out of this, because I'm sat in the house the whole time. Anyway, angels, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I'll be back next week, and I love you loads. I hope you are doing well, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.